Prepare the tea. Okay. It says we're live. I'm just waiting for, oh, that's going to blow up my sound. I got to get on that before I pour the tea for you guys. Okay. Mute that. Excellent. All right. Got the teapot. We've got the cup. Here's the live tea. And with this mic, I think you can hear it. I think it picks that up. As I was sharing with Rebekah, we don't have any compression. Oftentimes on live shows, a lot of live shows where they're trying to steal, our thunder and have pouring of the tea, what you'll notice is that the pouring of the tea, they don't have a very good mic for it. And it sort of gets, the sound gets compressed, it gets reduced. The sound form gets reduced, which cancels out noise, but you don't get that full authentic experience that I know, single listener right now, that you crave, which is the sound of the tea pouring. And then we can have a simultaneous sip. Let's do it. That's pretty tepid tea. Got to say, I'm a little disappointed with what I'm rolling here today. It's good Earl Grey. It's decaffeinated Earl Grey tea. So the bergamot is good. It's good in bergamot-y, but anyhow. All right. Well, it's a fresh day. I have a new haircut. I don't think I had. I think I was just getting this cut after our call last Friday. So for long-time viewers, first-time writers, whatever, I had a long beard about a month ago, long beard, long hair. Now short beard, shorter hair. So it's a total paradigm shift happening here at adamquiney.com headquarters. We're really changing things up. Kind of felt like I liked the long hair. I liked having a mane, but the beard started to feel like I felt old with it, less streamlined. And then I like having short hair that you can do stuff with and style differently. And yeah, so it was time. Feels good. It's very smooth. It's a two-part process for you watchers, because my stylist did this, but she can't do the fade. And I want a fade, which is where they shave really tight to the head and then they like fade it up to the top. So I have to now go to a proper barber to get that done. Boy, oh boy, it's endless. It's endless getting this stuff done. Thank you, Seth. Let's see. What's top of mind that I can share before we get to our live coaching? Not a lot. It's been a really nice week. I think I shared this last week. Actually, I'm pretty certain I did because I think Rebekah mentioned it. But well, there's a couple of things on my mind actually that I can share. So the first is just I've been noticing the part of me that would rather not do anything scary. The part of me that would rather not lean into possibility. And all of us have this. And this part of ourselves is like really a beautiful part of ourselves. It's what we call our ego. So our ego's job, it has one particular job, and that job is to keep you here in your familiarity, in your, as we call it, the comfort zone, your homeostasis. Because here in the world of what's familiar, it's known, it's predictable. And if it is predictable, then you can manage it. If it's predictable, you can avoid danger and threats. And this is why we do things collectively like suffer through abuse. It's why we stay in relationships that don't serve us. It's why we do things that, might be a little bit destructive to ourselves. It's why we continue to drink when we know that actually this is harming me, because it's familiar. And because our ego is actively working against shifting out of that pattern, because that pattern is comfortable and familiar. So on Tuesday, this is just an example of how this shows up for me. On Tuesday, I was speaking to a bunch of people from, I guess you could call it my alma mater, accomplishment coaching. And I was talking to them about the possibility of exploring possibility with people, like how as we as coaches need to go into the world and get really deeply fascinated by what is available, what is possible for human beings. What would this person's life look like if they were really set free? What would happen if this person had nothing in their way? Oh my goodness, can I get deeply fascinated by that? And leading into this, I wanted nothing more than to cancel. I woke up in the morning and I was like, oh, brother, I don't want to do that. It's scheduled this time. It's my time off. Why did I schedule something then? And my head just kind of iterated through all of the reasons why not do it and all of the ways to get out of doing it. So, like, the easiest way it came up with was I'd slept really poorly like 2 nights ago, and my back was really sore. My lower right back was just aching. And so I was sitting there, lying on the couch, doing nothing to support my back, playing video games, getting ready to go do this talk, and thinking, like, well, it's still 2 hours out. Maybe I could write my friend and tell her, like, hey, I slept really poorly on my back. So could we, maybe we can reschedule or postpone. I'll do it if I have to. And, kind of like float that, like, hey, I'd really rather not, but I'm willing to, that kind of thing. It's like a soft quit. It's not a hard quit. I'm not even exhibiting the courage to say I'm not going to show up. I'm kind of putting it in her hands. It's a very good strategy. It's like when we be a jerk in a relationship and then hoping that the other person will break up with us. And so I actually got to the point where I'd like halfway written a message, a text message to say this. And I was like, come on, Adam, you know what this is. You know that this is just your fear. Just go the course. It'll be fine. You'll be great, which I was. And the thing I find fascinating about that is I'm not new in this work at this point. I'm not a novice. I've been doing this work for 13 years. And when I say I've been doing this work for 13 years, I don't just mean I've been coaching people for 13 years. I mean, I've been engaging with my coach week after week for 13 years. I've been working with teachers. I've gone and found the founders of this work and trained with the masters of this work. I consume a lot of the medicine that I bring into the world. That's why I have 4 viewers. That's how I get those 4 viewers up there. That's what this earns you, is 4 viewers. And so all of that to say, like, I've got a wealth of background behind me, and still my fear shows up and it looks novel and it tickles me in the ear and it like gets me that close to just bailing out. So that's how powerful this stuff is. Our ego is every bit as powerful as we are, -1. It's like one layer below, because at the end of the day, we still have the choice. So that's been quite a fascinating part of my journey this week, is noticing, and I think I shared this at the end of last week's live coaching, but there it was again. It just keeps showing up. And so I think sometimes I have a fleeting fantasy that I will one day overcome this forever, and I'll never again have my ego like trying to do that, or I'll never again feel afraid. But that's just not been my experience. My experience is that if you keep stepping into a bigger game, then your fear is going to keep showing up in different ways. It's going to keep tweaking you the same sort of way that it always has. It doesn't mean that you've fallen behind or that you've lost the breakthrough you created. It just means that you're playing the next level of your game. And as you step into the next level, you're stepping out of what's familiar. As you step out of what's familiar, you are going to be confronting your fear once again. And when you confront your fear once again, it's going to have the same damn shape. It's going to wear the same mask that it always does. So that's thing one to share. Thing one that's been up for me. The second thing is I was some of you may know I've been a part of a group putting on what's called the Essence of Mastery Summit. So that's run by a friend of mine, Annie Gelfand, and it's for coaches that want to get what's called their MCC designation. It's a very rare designation. There's about 1,500 of us that have this designation. It's like the highest level of credentialing you can get by the International Coaching Federation. So it's sort of the body that attempts to like draw a fence around coaching and say, this is coaching, this is not, here's our standards. And the thing that's really interesting about, well, hold on, let me phrase this a bit differently. So what I was doing as part of this yesterday was I was live coaching. I was doing a coaching demo along with 2 other coaches, one of who was my mentor, creating, like, helping me get to my MCC, and then the other one was Annie. So it's like kind of rarefied air I'm getting to play with. And when Annie asked me if I would do this, I had a lot of concerns, because I was like, well, I don't really put myself out there as coaching to this standard. Like, I have that credential, but I'm not trying to meet that bar anymore. I'm just trying to do whatever feels authentic, intuitive to me. So we did this coaching. it went the way it went. It was fine. And then we had like a debrief. And what I noticed in the debrief was there are a lot of coaches that had kind of the attitude like, well, what was said in the summit was that masterful coaching does not have to require an MCC, doesn't have to look like MCC level coaching. So to be masterful in this line of work, you don't have to fit this particular bar. And what I noticed is people grabbed a hold of that. And they'd say like, so I don't know that I really want this. I don't know that this credential matters for me. I think I just want to be masterful and not have to worry about this. That's the thing I want to talk about here, is that internal dialogue, that internal conversation that comes up. Because what happens as you try to go towards an MCC or your particular legal designation or your general diploma or whatever it happens to be, is you're going to get confronted. And you're going to get confronted with the fact that everything you've learned to do really well is no longer sufficient to get you to this new level, to get you to this new bar. And there's a lot of comfort that comes when we say, I don't think I'm going to go for that, because now we don't have to take on whatever's there. We don't have to like worry about that. We're like, screw it. I don't have to do that. I just am going to know internally that I'm doing my own masterful work, and that's the end of that. That's totally fine. But what gets missed is that as you go towards that bar, whatever that bar is for you, it's going to drive up some stuff. Like maybe you're going to feel inadequate. Maybe you're going to feel frustrated. Maybe you're going to feel like, there's no way for me to be my authentic self whilst trying to achieve this particular approach, which isn't true, but that's the story you've got. And that story is the thing in the way. And when you remove this bar that you're going for, when you take that out of the equation, you no longer have anything that's driving you into a confrontation with that story. So the irony is that you don't have to hit this bar, whatever the bar is in your particular profession. You don't have to hit this bar to be masterful. But if you take away that bar, you're probably going to lose the very thing that's going to force you to confront the stuff that's in the way of the mastery that you seek. And so it's like this weird paradox where like getting your MCC or getting your JD or getting your whatever, it's not really about those initials. It's not about that acronym that you get to put after your name. You'll notice I never have those. I don't think. Do I have? No, I don't. It just says Adam Quiney. It's not about that. But the process of going towards those things and getting those things, that journey is of value. And so that's been really present for me lately. And I hear it a lot. It's very common in the coaching profession. People kind of hold like, they pull down this idea of credentialing in general. I don't need that. That's blah, 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 blah. And they especially pull down this idea of the MCC. And I think they miss out on something when they do that. What I advocate is get the thing, then turn around and criticize it. What often happens is people criticize it and don't go after the thing. And what we don't get is that we really miss out on something when we don't go over these hills, over these hurdles. Okay. I don't have anything more I want to share about that. I'm going to have a little sip of tea. I'm going to get my notebook set up here. Rebekah is someone who initially, I think I met because her coach at the time had put us in touch because she was considering becoming a coach herself. And she and I had something in common, which is we both have a JD, a Juris Doctorate, which means we are a doctor of law. Not really. I don't know how lawyers got away with this. We kind of, well, because we're lawyers, I guess we argued for it. Typically, if you're, a PhD or something like that, you've got not just a master's, but a doctorate. Whereas the lawyers are just like, you get an undergrad, you do the second degree, you're a JD, you're a doctor of laws. That's how it's going to be for us. So anyhow, what we have in common, we both coach. We both are former lawyers, former attorneys. Let's bring her on. Rebekah, turn on your camera, turn on your mic. Let's talk more about that for a while. Hello.
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 Yes.
So you're non-practicing, right?
Correct. Yep.
And still a member of your, say that again. Sorry, I talked over you.
Oh, no, you're fine. I actually inactivated my legal license last December. So it was like a big milestone for me. So
How was that?
officially inactive. It felt very freeing, very freeing. So yeah.
Was it scary at all? Did you get like condolences from your family or anything like that?
Oh no. I mean, honestly, it was it felt like because like I was supposed to hold all these answers because I was an attorney. Like I was like
Yeah.
this walking information post. So I didn't like feeling that way. And so I decided to do something about it. Because it was for years that I wasn't actually actively practicing in a law firm or kind of in the conventional sense. And so I was like, why am I paying this annual fee? Or why am I
Uh-huh.
racing to the finish line to do these continuing educations just to keep this thing that I don't even want anymore? So nobody clapped for me, but I did clap for myself.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It at least for me, it took some courage to,
Yeah.
because it's like a crossing of the Rubicon, like Caesar did. There's a finality to it.
Yeah.
Not entirely. You could always get it back, but like
Right.
it's easier to hold on to something than it is to let go and then walk your way back.
Yeah. Well, and
Uh-huh.
it's easier for me to let go of something if I know where I'm going. And with that, it was just like letting go for the sheer joy of letting go. So yeah,
Sweet.
so it did take
What
a little courage. Yeah.
what kind of law did you practice?
I practiced in the conventional sense. I did insurance coverage, bad, right?
Convention
The rectangle, yes,
of
the very
convention.
boundary, yes, all of the boxes, insurance coverage and bad faith litigation. And
Uh,
didn't really feel like I knew what I was doing during that whole time. So that was a lot of fun, lots of challenges.
uh-huh.
And then I left the conventional sense and actually opened a wine bar up. And so then
Oh, I didn't know that.
within that wine bar, I practiced liquor law, just kind of just the general business sense of law, employment law, labor law, all within the business, which was not a box, but more of like this. If I was going to use my hands more, so yeah,
So, okay, so like a wine bar where you would serve, you'd have like people, like patrons come
yep,
through and you'd serve them. And then
yep.
was your practice like more just running through policy and setting yourself up as required by the statutes, or were you actually working for other people as a lawyer at the same time?
I was not working for other people at the same time. It
Got it.
was solely for family business. Yeah. So for the other family, we have family businesses. I guess I'm blessed with family businesses, but I did practice kind of in a sense of whatever was needed in those things or those entities. I supported. And then
Uh-huh.
if I was uncomfortable with it or I didn't just know, then we would use outside counsel. So
Huh. Wow. Would you still
yeah.
have the wine bar?
No, I closed it in 2020. 2020 was like a huge year because I
COVID.
had,
Bad
yeah,
for wine bars.
COVID, running a wine bar during a pandemic. I had my son Oliver during the shutdown. So it was just like something had to give. And that was the
Uh-huh.
thing that gave. So,
COVID was like a really, really, really good thing for wine, but not so much good thing for like wine bars.
yes, yes. Or just the general operator of said businesses. Yeah. In
Uh-huh.
Ohio, that's where I live. The governor ordained us as like what was that called? Like a critical business or a
Mm,
necessary business or something. Like alcohol institutions were
like an
equally as
essential
important.
service kind of.
An essential business. That's what it was. Yeah. But
For
that was
real.
fun. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's so our relationship in the West to alcohol is a fascinating one, hey?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh. An essential service to allow people to come and drink together. And so I imagine that would have been challenging too. Like, where do we situate ourselves with masks? How do we hold all of that? Like, all of that
Yeah.
would have been stuff you'd had to navigate too. I guess you didn't go too deep into it. Like, you ended that pretty quickly.
Um, so we hung tight until December of that year. So shutdown
Right.
was, I think, March or something. We
Yeah.
reopened June. And then, but yeah, masks of like 6 feet. You had to be actively drinking in order to take your mask off. So
That's great
like,
for the business.
right. And like super challenging to like kind of ignite the spark in your employees to go
Yes.
have all of these confrontational conversations, um,
Uh-huh.
and so there was a lot of employee morale stuff, a lot of customer morale stuff, and so it was
Mm.
there was a lot of just there was just a lot of hardship, a lot of grief, a lot of hardship. So
Fascinating. Cool. Well,
yeah,
we could talk about that forever and maybe in
I
another
know.
conversation, but let's do
Yeah,
some coaching.
cool.
So let's just dive in. Where are we starting? What
Okay.
is it that you want to look at or work on today? And I'm going to take some notes
Um,
in my notebook as you talk. So if you see me looking down, that's what I'm doing.
Same. Either I'm gonna type or take notes. I have two different options in front of me.
Cool.
Um, I the question, what was the question? I wasn't even really listening. Isn't that
Yeah.
funny?
What should we work on? What would you like to get out of our conversation today?
Yeah, I think what I want to get out of the conversation is it's about family business,
Hmm.
about my a business that I have with two of my siblings, and it's a business that we inherited when we were really young, and the business has like it went through hardship. Now it's doing really well, but I don't know if I want to be in it anymore.
Mm,
And it's I guess is navigating. Do I want to be in it? How do I get out? There's a lot of fear of being blamed for creating dysfunction or all of the things. So I think that is the topic I want to talk about
mm,
today. Yeah.
got it. What is the family business, if you're comfortable sharing?
Yeah. It's in air and ground logistics. So
Aha.
we a customer calls us and we basically move their widget, whatever it might be, from point A to point B. And so we do all of the planes and automobiles to get their stuff from point A to point B. And sometimes we move
Oh, I
people
see.
too. So like charters for football teams or basketball teams and stuff like that.
So it's kind of like bespoke shipping a little bit.
I don't know what that is, but
Bespoke is like where you go to the store and the tailor like specifically makes a suit for you rather than buying it off the
oh,
rack. So it's sort of like, hey, I
okay.
want to get this from here to there. You guys are kind
Yeah.
of like, I'm not going to use UPS. I'm going to use you guys. It's like more of a custom tailor kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Uh-huh. Sounds cool when
Yeah.
you say bespoke though, right? Doesn't that sound fancy?
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it does.
Yeah.
Bespoke.
Got it. Okay, so inherited business, that's what you're doing, and then you're not sure if you want to be in it, and then there's some fears like on the backside, one way or the other. Like if I choose this way,
Right.
then I'm going to create this. I see. So
Right.
where
Right.
where do you want to end up today? Like what would be a great result to finish with?
Um, I'm gonna look at my notes because I knew you were gonna ask that question.
It's all prepared. It's very lawyerly of
I
her.
know. Um, I think, excuse me, I'm still like recovering. It's been a 3 month cough. Anyways, I think I would want to walk away with some sort of declaration for myself, like a what by when.
Uh-huh.
Um, Maybe it's a milestone, maybe it's an action, but I have been kicking this can for years. And so it
Mm,
just feels like it's finally coming to this place where like I need to like I'm just done being resigned, I guess. I'm just done being resigned.
uh-huh. Got it. How many years would you say you've been in this place for?
Um this place in particular, uh so I've been an owner for I think 17 or 18 years.
Quite a while.
So mhm. I mean, I don't know, maybe it was the whole time, but
Okay.
being very aware of it would be, I don't know, 3 years, 5 years, 1 year. I don't know. Longer than 1 year though.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
so quite some this is not like a fresh feeling or an experience. It's sort of like been there for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. And so okay, so that's pretty clear. Like kind of if we got to the point where you were feeling like you could make a declaration around this one way or the other, that would feel pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay.
'Cause-
And you go ahead, please.
Oh, I was just gonna say because I know that or I have a story that this won't be solved, and I don't even know what solved means within the time we have together. So it's like I think an attainable objective would be to create a declaration. So something that I've even been avoiding to do. So
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. You said this will
yeah.
not be solved, correct? That's the story?
Yeah, that's the
Okay.
story.
Perfect. Cool. That's a nice low
Listen,
bar for us to work with. So that's perfect.
right.
Okay, cool. All right. So what I get roughly there's like some fear of being blamed, but maybe you can share like just a little bit more about like how things are for you around this right now. Like how does this occur? What's your experience of it? Anything you want to share to put some meat on the bones.
Yeah, I would say the family dynamics are at play. Like we're all very different. My mom is also still involved. She plays like kind of the advisor role in the company. My brother is the CEO, and he's also the main shareholder. Um, and but it's like anytime that it gets talked about, there's a lot of talking over each other.
Mm.
And it feels like, at least for me, like I'm left feeling not heard. And then when we talk about it, and I don't even like to use the word we because that would be inclusive of me. When I'm witnessing the conversation about
Uh-huh.
the company, it's always around taxes. It's always, there's just a lot of angst. It's
Mm.
always like very burdensome. Um, there's just always a fire, um, like a fire to put out.
Yep.
I feel, or the story that I would have is like there's just a lot of dysfunction. And I think it has a lot to do with family, just different personalities, like right, wrong, or in between. There's nothing wrong about how the people are showing up, but it's like I, I guess I also get triggered very easily with my family, right, wrong, or in between. And so then like I would rather just not be triggered and just stay over here and not do anything. Keep it as homeostasis, as what you said earlier.
Right, right. Got
Yeah.
it. Okay. So it sounds like, well, the words you use, lots of angst, always like, what's the next fire we have to put out? Like, it sounds kind of like a stressful entity. Is that an
Yeah.
accurate experience? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so the thing I'm not clear on yet is like, so is it, hold on, let me just check because I'm about to ask you a closed ended question and I want to see if I want to do that intentionally. The answer to that question was no. What is the ultimate thing you think there is for you to overcome with regards to this?
I think that I have to overcome would be, I think just this is a constant practice for me of like letting people have their experience of me and not making it my truth. So if
Hmm.
my brother, or if my mom calls me like I don't know, are we allowed to cuss on here? I don't even
Of
know.
course. Fuck yeah. Uh-huh.
If they called me like a greedy bitch or
Uh-huh.
you know, like I guess I just don't want to fall into that spoiled brat, uh,
Hmm.
like whatever spoiled brat character. Um, and so I think that would be the thing I would have to overcome. It's like, okay, you're calling me a spoiled brat, and like I know I'm not, or you're
Hmm.
calling me a greedy bitch, like, and I know I'm not, or you're calling me, whatever it might be, and like I know that I'm not.
I
So
see.
I think that would be one piece, and then also like um, moving through like my emotions while I'm in them, like in live time with them.
Hmm. And so I could imagine you doing those things regardless of the choice you made, whether it was to leave or whether it was to stay and reinvent or whatever.
Right.
Do you have a sense of which direction? Like, are you sort of like, I want to leave and I'm finding that challenging? Or is it like, I'm not even sure if I want to leave or if I want to stay and that's my challenge? Like, where would you say you are as far as that's concerned?
I think it's do I really want to leave? And then
Got it.
I think I do want to, but then I feel like I'm inside of this like this golden cage,
Right.
and it's
Yeah.
gold because of like what the cage is comprised of, but it's still a
Uh-huh.
cage. Um, and so I've spoken with like an attorney and a CPA to kind of see what that would look like for like a buyout, and it's just like, well, if you go in this direction, then you have like a crap ton of taxes, and if you go in this direction, then you have a crap ton of taxes, and it's just like, oh wow. So like that's part of like the cage and then family dynamics and
I
all of
see.
the things.
And then that keeps you at this
Yeah.
decision point that doesn't kind of resolve.
Right. Right. It's like, well, do I want to leave? Because then there's so many ramifications if I leave. But then if I
Uh-huh.
stay, then it's like this. I feel very burdened. That's the overall experience that I have. Is like once a year there's um once a year, the taxes come around
Yep.
and it's just like this huge explosive conversation, or it's very guarded. Like it's
Uh-huh.
like it's brushed under the rug, eggshells, a lot of avoidance. So
Those
yeah,
conversations can almost be harder than the explosive ones because at least when the explosion's happening, you're like, okay, this is the angle it's coming from. Whereas when it's all
right.
on eggshells, it's like, am I going to get hit in the side of the head, the back? Where's it? I don't know. It's even less safety in
Yeah,
a way.
right. That's true. Never thought about it like
Uh-huh.
that.
So, okay. So it sounds like the real challenge that's there for you right now is like, what is the decision that you want to make? Like before going anywhere further, like what actually is there that you want to do? Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Was there
I think
something else
so.
showing up for you in this moment?
Um, I feel like it's either, I don't know if I'm living in like either or, but I feel like it's to get out of the cage. It's either I
Mm-hmm.
sell, like there's a buyout,
Mm-hmm.
or there's some sort of benefit. Like the company uses the word we a lot.
Yep.
And it's like, well, I would be a part of that we, but I don't feel like I am a part of that we. So there's all this benefit in the we, but it's like, well, then let's actually benefit all of the individuals who are of the collective body of we. So it's almost like more, it's like there has to be some sort of benefit, like a distribution and that's where that spoiled brat, greedy bitch shows up. It's like, oh, if
Uh-huh.
I actually ask for this, then I'll be a greedy bitch, so it's easier just to stay in the cage.
Uh-huh. The cage being like the status quo, how things are currently.
Right.
Uh-huh. Got it. Okay. So you've just put like two pretty clear choices. One is you sell, you leave. The other is you
Right.
stay, but things shift. Is that about
Yeah,
accurate?
it is. And then I think the only thing that I believe would shift would just be the finances. And I mean, I don't know if the family stuff would shift with it. Like, I don't know if it would be exasperated or,
Hmm.
so that's also like the thing I feel like I should sell because I want to avoid this thing over here.
I see. Okay. So where do you think we should go as far as exploring this? There's a couple doors that are kind of open.
Yeah. I don't know. Where do you think we should go?
I have no idea. I've got the easy job over here. What does your
I
intuition tell
know.
you? What direction feels kind of like, kind of feels like that's the path for us to take?
Yeah. I think selling. I would say
Selling, okay.
selling. Yeah.
Just explore that a bit. Great.
Yes.
And I just want to speak to those watching and listening. Like, it's a really beautiful moment that just happened between Rebekah and I, where like I asked her where we should go, and she asked like, where do you think we should go, Adam? And like, that's a perfect mirror, Rebekah's question, for like what's happening inside my head, which is like, fuck, okay, I got to figure this out. I got to know the answer. And and she's joking about it. Rebekah's been really great, but there's always a part of us as client that kind of wants like, but can you tell me the answer? And so that exists for both of us. I want to make sure that we're not stepping over that both Rebekah and I have. Correct me if I'm wrong, Rebekah. I'm taking some
No.
liberties here, making some assumptions, but
Yeah.
both there's a part of us that's like, come on, Adam, what's the answer? And
Yeah.
that's part of why coaching is challenging, is that we have to trust not in that. We have to set aside this idea that I should have an answer. Instead, really, really step back into Rebekah's power and explore this with her. So, and once we come to an acceptance of that, it's way better because then I don't have to work as hard. It's more fun. Not for
Yeah.
Rebekah. For her, this is going to be absolute misery. But for me, it's much more fun. Okay. So I sell is kind of like an option. So tell me about that. Like, what's the thoughts that come up? What is there to share regarding that particular path?
I sell, then I pay capital gains. That doesn't
Okay.
sound fun. Um, I sell and uh like I've let go a big part of like what I have with my family.
Mm,
That's like always been that's just like the topic of conversation at the dinner table.
mm,
Um, some sort of like letting down, letting family down, bailing out, kind of like how you
mm,
said earlier. Um, hmm, I don't know. I think that, and then also this idea, and I don't really think I am giving it too much credence, but it's like there's the safety net. Like, oh, if all hell breaks loose, then I have the safety net and I can like go be general counsel there or something
uh-huh,
like that. So I should just keep it there. I should just keep that there, keep homeostasis because maybe what if one day I would want to use it or I would want to lean more into this or something along those lines.
uh-huh. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes total sense. So there's
Yeah.
like some of the logistics as you think about this, like, yeah, you pay capital gains tax, blah, 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 all of that. And then maybe a little more ontological, like I'm letting go of something, I'm letting people down, I'm letting my family down, I'm bailing out, kind of like I'm a quitter kind of vibe. Is that,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm understanding
Yes.
that right? And
Yeah.
then, and like, oh, and I'm cutting the safety rug or the safety net rather. I'm cutting the strings on that so that that's no
Right.
longer an option. Hmm.
Right.
Got it. So what shows up for you as you start to share these things and talk about them?
Um uh like tearfulness. I can tell I'm holding back tears.
Mm,
Because it's a hard conversation.
mm,
Like even like thinking about it, it makes me tearful. I don't even know what the tears are about, but it's tearful.
uh-huh.
Um, yeah, I would say that would be it. That would be
Uh-huh.
what shows up. And then I get quiet and I don't want to say anything when I'm trying to not show
Yeah,
any
you're
sort
doing
of
really,
emotion
really
and be
great.
very super stoic.
Uh-huh. Thanks for, I mean, I can relate to that. That's what I learned to do too. And it makes us great
Yeah,
attorneys. Emotions, nope. I just become super still. Good luck trying to get
yeah,
anything from this stone. So
yeah,
thanks for your practice. I really honor that.
yeah.
And I
Thank
honor you
you.
for your heart, Rebekah. Like what I'm present to as we're sharing is that you're a woman with like very, very brilliant, but like huge, huge heart. And big hearts, in my experience, build big walls. So it makes
Yeah,
sense, both of this, that as you start to speak about this, there's some like emotionality showing up. And then there's that part of you that's like, let's secure the perimeter. We'll lock this down, we'll
yeah.
get stoic. So thanks for all of that that's coming to the
Yeah.
table.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Hmm. So what feels important to explore from here?
Um, how do I all the how to's, right? If you could just tell me how to do
Mm,
something. How do I like bring this conversation to the surface? Like
mm,
with the with my brothers. And I would imagine with my mom because she's so intertwined also. Like
uh-huh.
how do I bring this up? Because I think that's what I want to do. That's what I need to do. Um, that's what I don't like the word need. It feels very like part of the box.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, I would say, how do I bring this up? How do I bring this up in the but in a way that's not going to create like explosiveness or hurt
Mm,
feelings. Like I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Yeah,
uh-huh. When you say like how do I bring this up or how do I bring this conversation, can you clarify like what is the conversation you would be bringing before we get to how to?
yeah. Would be the conversation of excuse me,
Hmm.
um, of Such a great question. Why even talk about this? Like, like eh, it's what do I want to bring up? What do I want to bring up? I want to bring up the concept, the idea of me exiting the company. Yeah.
Got it. And as you speak those words out loud, what shows up for you?
That I'm supposed to add the other part. Like it's realizing some sort of economic benefit, and if I'm not going to, then I want to be bought out. And it like it's almost like that's the logical thing to ask for.
Mm.
Um is like presenting it like that. It's like, oh, maybe that's what the conversation is about, but it's like I don't even know if that's where I want to stand. Um
Let me make sure I followed that. So what I think I heard was sort of like, I want to talk about me exiting the company. And then it sounded like the secondary part was like, unless there is a blah, 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 blah.
yeah, but I think
Aha.
the unless there is a blah 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 blah, like I don't, I have a belief that the personality dynamics would still be there.
Right.
And I think it also would involve me needing to be more involved than I already am. And I feel like there's a
Aha.
lot of resistance to doing that because my body is like so resistant to burning out because I do
Got it.
things and I burn out and then I do things and I burn out and then I do things and then I burn out. Really great at burning out. Let me tell you, he can give you a
Aha.
master's degree in that. But so I could see that even going down that path, like I believe like I would just feel exhausted often. I believe that I would feel like just angst, I guess,
Aha.
angst again.
So
I can see that we're just like going backwards instead of forwards. Sorry.
it's not, well, it's not how it occurs at all here. I think
Okay.
that what you're bringing forward is like really, really important because there's this part of you that wants to exit. And then it
Mm,
sounds, what I'm curious about is it sounds to me a little bit like there's like a part of you that's almost like hedging a bit.
mm,
Like, oh, but maybe if, and it
right.
sounds like you're working through like the validity of that, like if that's really what you want. And so that's,
Right.
I'm putting some of my words to it, but I'm curious how it feels to you. Like, does it feel like I really want to leave, but if there was a sweet enough offer on the table, so to speak, then I would
Right.
feel content staying? Or does that feel like, oh, that feels a little bit like some fear that's pulling you back? Or how does that all occur to you?
I it's almost like let's say that happened. Let's say that sweet deal happened and then I
Yeah.
entered into that sweet deal.
Yeah.
It's almost like I still have this knowing that the can is still being kicked of
Aha.
Rebekah exiting.
Right.
That's yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
So what's the best result you could get here? Greatest result ever, like whatever you go into this conversation, but like the just holy crap, I can't believe whether it's leaving or staying or whatever, but what would be the ultimate result?
Um family, like ultimate result would be I opened a door for my brothers because they too feel this way.
Mm.
And I was a catalyst for them to use their voice. And they said, "Hey, I don't want to do this either, or I'm done with
Aha.
this too." And then there was like some sort of like collective brainstorming session that we all like that I can't even see right now of what ideas there would be. The three of us coming together and creating something really cool, and where all of us felt like we were winning.
Aha. And does that ultimate result you just described, is you leaving a part of that, or is that kind of whether you stay or go irrelevant to it?
Um, Great question. I look up to find the answers. Um,
Written on the wall up here.
I know, I know. Um, I don't know. There's like this spark that if like the three of us were aligned, like I think it would be fun.
Mm.
Um, I don't know, but I think I don't know. I just feel like I'm so indecisive and I can't even. It's like I can't trust what I want because it feels so far away.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I can feel that. There's sort of like as you know, being a coach, like coaching is the most powerful when we're clear on where we want to get to, right?
Yeah,
Now, of course, that's all fine and good, but if we're not clear on where we want to get to, then that's where we are. So it's not
right,
like that's a thing we should be able to do or that we're required to generate or anything. But I can kind of feel that in the space where there's a little bit of like, do I want this? But actually, do I want that? Or like, I'm not
right.
so sure. And and then so it sounds kind of like there's a couple pieces. There's your own desire, and then there's just like more broadly like a desire for a particular flavor or type of conversation with your brothers that currently feels like it's unavailable.
Correct. Yeah.
Uh-huh. How do those feel related or connected to you? Like how do those sit for you?
Excuse me. How do they sit or how are they related? Um, it's like the two, it's almost like the conversation has to be here and then the result is there. So it's like the conversation is step one.
Uh-huh.
I would say that's how they're related. They're
Uh-huh.
yeah, or a step. I don't know if it's step one, but a step.
Right. So that conversation with them is kind of like, am I hearing this right? That it's like the first thing to happen.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Got it. Okay. And so tell me, like, is this new information for you, or is this something you've known for a long time?
Something I've known for a long time
Uh-huh.
of of having the conversation.
Got it. And has it happened?
No.
Okay. All right. Tell me more about that.
It's just uncomfortable.
Uh-huh.
It's like, yeah, just uncomfortable. Um, the one brother who's the CEO, he's employed by the company. And I don't know if there's like contempt or resentment about that, for him, but it's almost like anytime we bring something up, it's like, I don't understand. I don't understand things because I'm not there. That's what
Hmm.
I'm told. Or I just don't get how hard it is because I'm not there. Or I'm ungrateful. I'm all of this stuff. So that it's like, well, I don't, geez, I don't want to have that type of conversation.
What
So
is
that's
that type
why
of conversation? Like, how would you, what would you, that experience you're describing? What's the
yeah.
conversation that is being had when that experience gets created?
Some sort of change in the company. Like if I'm
I see.
noticing, like if I'm noticing my brothers or my mom are like keep spinning on the same type of dynamic.
Yeah.
It could be about anything. Um, I bring that dynamic up.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of like I bring elevation to the room, and
Yep.
then like I get slapped down for doing that. It could be about bookkeeping. It could be about a particular employee. It could be about, you know, uh, second shift or something like that.
I see.
It's like, hey, I noticed that we keep talking about this thing. Like, what if we brought in a specialist that, yada yada yada, or what if we filled this position and broke these two, this one job into two different jobs? It's like, oh, that's more work. I don't understand. So anytime I propose some sort of change, then it's met with a lot of resistance.
Got it. So that conversation, to summarize, it sounds like when the conversation is about like changing things,
Yeah,
that causes that experience. Like you don't understand, you're getting slapped down, or basically whoever's
right.
proposing change gets slapped down. It's all awkward. So What is the kind of conversation you think needs to be had? Like you said, okay, it feels like there's a conversation to have, some kind of conversation. And it may be that conversation that you just described, one about change. But I'm
Yeah.
going to ask all the same. What do you think that conversation needs to be that needs to be had?
I think a conversation about the succession of the business, like
Mm,
when my dad died,
uh-huh.
like the three of us were just we inherited this business.
Yeah.
So if and all of us are pilots too, so um
So cool.
our yeah, thank you.
Hmm.
So I'd say that because like I could get in a plane crash, like my brother could get in a plane crash, and then we all have kids, and so then now like are my brothers, because I died, like are they going to be in business with my son, like
Uh-huh.
where does this stop? So there's like I would say that conversation
Uh-huh.
um just needs to be brought to the surface and even create some sort of like buyout agreement, shareholder agreement. It's almost like that's my way in on like, oh, and by the way, you know it's kind of that soft quit, I think is what you said. While we're here
Right.
in this normally uncomfortable conversation, like I want to sell, like I want to be bought out. And then
Uh-huh.
that it's like, how is that funded? The business is making money, but then it's I don't know. And so like then money gets involved and
Right. Well, but what I notice happens is you start to talk about like you start to get clear on what needs to happen
mhm,
and then all of the like the content of that
right.
conversation starts to show up in your head.
Yeah,
Do you notice that?
yeah.
And would you say that adds clarity or reduces clarity for you?
um I have no idea. Probably reduces because I'm like speculating.
Right. Yeah. Like it over here, it seems like it takes away from you clear on like the what and more starting to get caught in like the how or what, well, all of the moving parts to this.
Yeah. And I think I do that. Like it's almost like it's like I'm trying to prep for this interview or something. Like I'm supposed to
Uh-huh.
have all this like shit memorized to go into this interview or have all of my homework done. Um, and because if I don't, then they're gonna trip me up, and then I'm gonna have to go back in or something like that. I don't know. Clearly, I have great relationships with interviews, so
Well, tell me more about that. So if you don't, they'll trip you up and then you'll have to go back in. And
yeah.
so what's so bad about that?
Um, I would say just like the mental load on my body, like it feels
Hmm.
so hard. Like it's part of it's like the journey to burnout for me. It's like the journey to burnout for
What
my
feels so
body.
hard?
Um, Having a conversation with somebody that you have a lot, like you have decades of historical data that says like this is going to be hard. Like the being with their emotions, being with their resistance, um, not feeling heard, uh, like and being called names, because I'm the youngest and the
Uh-huh.
spoiled brat. So and
Do you get
just
called that a lot?
as a kid I would, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So not feeling heard, being called
Mhm.
names. Any other
Yeah.
versions of this that'll be hard? Anything else that makes it hard?
Um, um, hmm. Like just like the general aggressiveness, I think there's just a lot of protection from each of
Uh-huh.
us. Like I'm part of that. And just like penetrating the armor again. It's like if I'm already there in the conversation, like, oh gosh, like I have to put the armor down. And the armor's probably even more thick because now they've had time to go away. Now they've like thought of things and stewed on things. And then like my story is that the armor will get thicker versus coming down.
Hmm.
So then I have to go back in to even address more, in order to even have like a level conversation.
Uh-huh. How do your brothers feel about the business?
I think the I think there's a lot of pride. I think they're proud of it. Um, I don't know. I don't know how they feel about it.
Hmm. What does that tell you?
That I haven't asked the question.
Do you think they know how you feel about it?
Um, they assume, because I've been on the receiving end of it, they assume that I don't care or that I don't give a fuck is what I've received. And
Uh-huh.
I've combated that with like, no, you're wrong. I do care. And then it's this whole like finger pointing, and see, look, I care because I did this thing over here, or
Right.
why should I care? Because there's no like I'm not benefiting, or so there's
Uh-huh.
assumptions about how I feel. But to say how they feel, like I don't know. I don't
Uh-huh.
know.
So there's a
I could
lot
assume.
of, right, like it sounds like there's a lot of like kind of sort of assumptions based on assumptions based on assumptions. There's a lot built up.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Right.
What are you getting from this conversation so far?
Um, honestly, less tearfulness. I feel less tearful. So that's a win for me.
Hmm.
Um, it was almost like giving it, excuse me, giving it oxygen has let it just not feel so just like heavy.
Uh-huh.
Um, so I would say that's what I'm getting from this. And also just like more clarity as to having the conversation and asking just really curious questions like, what do they see for the business? What do they see for themselves in the business? What do they
Uh-huh.
feel about it? Which I think I would get a more of a not feeling based answer. Um, that's
Yeah,
what I
so
would say.
who,
I would get,
please continue.
go
I
ahead.
didn't mean to talk over you.
Yeah, I don't even know what I was going to say. So go ahead.
I had a client once. This is a digression. I'm going to do it anyhow. I like interrupted him and I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. And he was like, it's okay. I'm just talking right now to fill the silence. And I was like, amazing awareness. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
That's great. I'll interrupt you more often now.
Yeah.
So, who, given what you've described, which is your brothers don't really know how you feel, you don't really know or haven't really heard how they feel. There's
Yeah.
sort of like assumptions upon assumptions layered up. There's a lot of defensiveness. And you've shared that it feels like there is some kind of conversation to have with them. How
Right.
do you think there is for you to be in that conversation?
I think for me to be like just authentic, honest, and just share kind of the like wander, I guess, be willing to wander
Hmm.
and fumble in the conversation. Yeah, wander and fumble in the conversation.
What do you wish that they would like provide you? Like, how do you wish they would be with you in that conversation?
Um, accepting,
Uh huh.
um, like inviting, um, accepting, inviting, um, also just like kind of innovative.
Say more.
I think I would, yeah, I think I would want to be innovative too in that conversation. Just like there's like excitement or something. Like there's something to be excited about, and there's something to
Hmm.
innovate. There's something to create with them. Um, yeah, I would all want all of us to be innovative.
Uh huh. Got it. And so they're going to show up however they're going to show up, right?
Yeah, yeah,
As you've probably noticed. It's the most
right,
annoying part about humans. Like we know how they should show up for us, but they don't. Idiots.
right, right.
So, what would you need to continue to bring inside yourself acceptance, invitation, and innovation, regardless of how they show up?
Um, what would I need in me? Is that the question? What would I need in me for
What
that?
would you need to generate those qualities of being in yourself?
Mm,
Like if you're wanting that from them, what would you
right.
need to generate to bring that to them?
I think I would need to generate like acknowledgement, really acknowledging them.
Hmm.
Um, I would need to um not try to be right. Like
Hmm.
really remind myself like this isn't like my goal is out here. My goal isn't to be correct in this moment, or correct at all, because there is no correct answer here.
Right.
Um,
What would you put your
and
attention on instead of correctness or being right?
um, I think seeing them, I
Hmm.
think just witnessing and seeing them. Because I think if I witness and see them, then that would soften them.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Which this is supposed to be about me, right? So I'm still trying to soften them.
I'm not a very good coach. Terrible. But that's quite beautiful. So acknowledging what you see over there and also like really putting your attention on like just what's the truth over there as opposed to what or what's their truth as opposed to like what's the truth, what's the right thing. Am I hearing that
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. What do you imagine that might cause or create?
Um, I think that would cause more connection. I think that would cause them to feel, I mean, maybe they're scared of me. Like they could be scared of me. I have no idea. Less fear in the
Mm.
room, less fear towards each other, a lot of lessness. What would it create? A lot of lessness. Um, and it would create, I think it would just create an opening. It would create an opening for another conversation, which is the thing that I was avoiding of having. And I know there's going to be multiple conversations. There's going to be multiple different professionals involved in this transaction. So I think it's a bit naive for me to start by saying there is only going to be one conversation. Yeah. So I think connection, um, and just creating an opening for what the future could look like, and
Mm.
creating an opening for them too of what their future could look like.
Uh-huh. And would more connection and more of that opening being created, would that make the subsequent conversations go easier, harder? What would the impact be?
I think the impact would be easier.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Anything else?
easier. Um, it would get things in motion.
Hmm.
It would get things in motion, which I can tell I'm scared of.
Uh-huh.
Because it's like, oh wow, what if I change my mind, or But I think ultimately, even if I do change my mind, um, it would still have us create some sort of agreement about if I die, then what happens, or if one of them dies, like then what happens.
Right. Well, I'm hearing what you're describing is like more intimacy in the space for the two, for the
Yeah,
three of you.
yeah, 3.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
It's sort of like, I mean, we see this in relationship all the time too, where people are like, I want to have a conversation about what we're going to do with eating out or budget or
Right.
something. But the couple are
Yeah.
like, there's a breakdown in the communication and it's tough to have this higher level conversation when we've got a breakdown in our intimacy,
Yeah.
you know? Um, so what do you see there is to do? What's going on for you?
I just really like the word intimacy. Yeah. That really
Mm-hmm.
resonated with me because that's what
Uh-huh.
it's lacking. That's what it's lacking.
Uh-huh. Yeah, there's a beautiful truth in intimacy, which is just however I feel is exactly however I feel. I mean, I know you and your
Right.
husband do a lot of work in this area. You guys practice together and like
Right.
be in the practice of seeing and just like sharing how you feel. Do you notice an impact when you practice that way with your partner?
I do. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And
There's
what
just
what is
more there's sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you.
no
There's
place?
just more openness, I guess. Like the more we practice together, um, there's just more openness. And then
Mm.
there's also more like getting the other person, like really getting it. I don't know what that's called, but just really
Like you
getting
did a great
them.
job naming it. Yeah, getting each other.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So what do you see there might be to do from here?
Um, take a deep breath, right?
Uh,
What do I see to do from here? Would be to I want to schedule the call, but I feel like that's too formal. But then I like could see us at a restaurant, just the three of us, having this conversation. So I feel like but I want it to be easy. I want it to be casual.
yeah,
So it's like if I'm scheduling this thing, it doesn't feel casual anymore.
right.
Um, but we live an hour or 2 hours away from each other, so it's not like we run into each other at the local restaurant or something like that. I think
Does it have to
scheduling
be
something
the three of you all together?
very true. Um,
I'm not, there's no truth I'm speaking. I'm just asking the question.
um, I think it does because anytime I have a conversation that I'm like skating on intimacy with either of them, the the quick handle that one of them grabs onto is like, oh well, we don't know what the other brother is going to say, and so it kind of deflates the any sort of traction we made in that conversation.
And would what the other brother has to say help me understand how that has a bearing on like just the intimate moment of like how you feel, how they feel, what's going on?
Right. Um, it doesn't.
I could really see
It
in a
doesn't.
logistical conversation that'd be super important.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Right. So I think individual conversations, because then I could be just with one person and that feels less daunting. It's like
Mm.
I'm not managing a conversation, I'm just having it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, just being with each
But,
other.
right. And I think at the gate, kind of prefacing it that like, or sometime in the conversation, maybe at the end, or if they bring up that they have some sort of reservation, that like I'm going to have a conversation with the other sibling too.
Uh-huh. So what would serve you here? Like, I know one of the things you said is you want to make a declaration. You don't have to,
Yeah.
but I would just want to check and see like what would serve you as we start to kind of wind down
Hmm.
from here to set yourself up for the coming weeks or months or years or however long.
Touche. So I would say um by I don't know, like by I want to say by the first of the year,
Hmm.
that I will have a conversation with um one brother. I don't know. I just it's almost like I don't want to ruin the holidays. Like this is somehow going to ruin the holidays.
Yeah.
Um, so it's almost like between the weeks of Christmas and the New Year, have a conversation with at least one or hopefully both brothers. Just both. I'm going to declare to have a conversation with both brothers between Christmas and New Year's. And my fear is already telling me, but then like one of their kids' birthdays is like the following weekend, and is it going to be awkward? But whatever. That's me trying
Yeah.
to bail
So
out.
I I'm not of the belief that like we have to force our hand or if we're like, I don't want to wreck the holidays or something that shouldn't be honored. So I want to check, like,
Yeah.
is between Christmas and New Year's part of the holidays that part of that voice of yours is like, I don't want to wreck that. Like, does that fall into that period?
Mm, I don't know. I don't think so. I
Okay,
don't think so. Yeah.
cool. And and then the other thing I hear is sort of like there's a bit of an ongoing story which you've distinguished for yourself that's sort of like this is going to be hard, it's going to be weird, it's going to be awkward, right?
Yeah.
And I would invite you to put some thought towards like what would be the possibility if my brother and I were able to have like a really beautiful intimate conversation with one another where we just really
Hmm.
left that conversation feeling totally seen by each other
Right.
and let that guide you.
Yeah.
Do you see the distinction between that and the current like it's be weird, it'll be awkward?
Right.
What is some
I
of the
just,
possibility you see might be there?
some of the possibility would be, um, that we would maybe enjoy, like if we hang out for New Year's, like we would enjoy New Year's more. Like there would be some sort of
Yeah, right.
extra bond there, because of that. Um, that some uh, like there, I would almost be doing the family a favor because I'm trying to put a bow around this, what I'm going to call like this big lurking elephant of like, crap, if one of us dies, like is this whole thing going to start over again? And
Right.
um so I don't want to sound, I mean, whatever. It's like I'm patting myself on the back right now when I'm not trying to appear as the person who pats myself on the back, but whatever.
It's okay to do that
Um,
too. It's a good look
yeah,
on you. Yeah.
touche. Yeah.
And whether it's you or not, but that's the like regardless of who does it, that's the thing that's part of the possibility that might be created.
Right.
True?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So
Yeah.
better time at New
Um,
Year's, sort of get out in front of some of this stuff, not have something lurking, like the specter of this lurking over your shoulder.
right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And also, I would just say greater intimacy. And also just the possibility, like if the whole conversation goes to shit, which I don't think it will, um, then the kind of just like the knowing of that. It's like, okay, then I just kind of know what there is in front of me. So that's also the possibility of just like sheer knowledge, which is something I like because I just like knowledge. Yeah.
Who doesn't love knowledge? So let me just speak to the audience briefly. One of the things that we're doing here is Rebekah's doing like a superhuman thing, which is there's some fear attached to this conversation. Of course, because it's like new territory, it's outside, it sounds like she'll correct me if I get this wrong, but it sounds like the familiar thing is to sort of like be in the conversation about logistics. And instead, she's forging
Hmm.
a new path, which is one like a conversation in service of relationship and intimacy before not to never have the logistical conversation, but before going there to like create a different level of relatedness. That's going to be scary. And from our fear, we focus on like the scary parts about the thing. So we look at like, oh my God, it's going to be weird. It's going to be awkward. It's going to be hard. It's going to be horrible. There'll be slapping or whatever. And maybe, I mean, maybe all that stuff will be present. We don't really know. It's totally up in the air. But what's not getting looked at all is the possibility. What would be available? What might happen if she had this conversation? How might things be different? How might the holidays transform? And so we're just all we're doing is inviting her to look down that path, the path of what would be possible, as opposed to the path of why it'll suck. You're welcome to look down either of those paths. As humans, we tend to be biased towards the path of what will suck because we're risk avoidant. That's how we've evolved. That's why we're all alive and not dead from saber-toothed tigers. In this work, we're transforming our look to look towards down the path of what would be possible. Anything you want to add to that, Rebekah?
I don't think so. It was very beautifully said.
Cool,
Thank you.
cool. Okay, so by the first of year, you're going to have a conversation with both your brothers. That's the declaration. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else that feels like it might really serve you between now and then with regards to what we've looked at today?
Um, I think, well, so today is the company like holiday party, and I'm making the assumption that they're both going to be there. And I guess just trying to have fun with them. Um, yeah, just trying to have fun with them. Um, yeah, have fun at it versus like super guarded,
Aha.
you
Tell me
know.
something that you love about each of your brothers.
Um, I love my brother Sean's like perseverance and his just ability to be a straight shooter. He can
Mm,
sift through bullshit. I love that about him. And then I love that my other brother, I love his like wit. I love his like charisma. He can just talk to anybody and make them feel good.
mm.
Um, yeah. And he also can sift through bullshit, I think, pretty well too. So I like,
What is
yeah.
it? So tell me, like, share, what does it look like when you're having fun with Sean? And what does it look like when you're having fun with your other brother?
Um, it would look like we are laughing, we are in close proximity physically. Um, we're not talking about business because it seems like that seems to be like it incites kind
Aha.
of things. Um, we're talking about airplanes. We'll talk about airplanes today. That will,
Sweet.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah, yeah,
Awesome. So focus on having fun at the party tonight,
yeah, right,
having the conversation with them, and in the conversation being accepting, inviting, innovative connection, creating intimacy.
yeah.
Ah, nice. Anything else that feels important before we wind down?
Um, I don't think so. Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah.
You're welcome. So I want to acknowledge you to finish up. But before we do, I guess I did already ask you if there's anything else. So
Okay.
is there anything particular you'd like me to acknowledge you for?
Um, I think maybe just uh saying that I'm tearful out loud, uh, instead of just pretending like this isn't here and hopefully nobody can tell.
Uh-huh.
And also, so I think I don't know what that word would be or what quality that would be, but whatever that would be. And also bringing this up here, because I've learned to just always brush things under the rug. Don't ever talk about family, and doing
Yes.
this here is scary,
Yeah.
scary. So
I would love to acknowledge you for those things, Rebekah. The word, like the things that I'm really present to in and as you are like, first of all, your courage and your integrity. There's a real like, I mean, I am present to your courage throughout all of this. You know, the courage to go and have an intimate conversation. Full stop. That's crazy. Crazy. That's not what we as lawyers are trained to do. And this is not a spoiler to you, but it might be to some other people. Like those of us that get into the legal profession, we're not stoic because we got into the legal profession. We got into the legal profession because we learned to be stoic and to hide all this
mhm.
shit. And for you to like put it on loudspeaker and even for you to allow yourself to like feel it, you know, just the
Yeah,
act of like allowing yourself to feel that you're tearful, never mind even talking about it live on a show like this, like a crazy person. That's amazing. And so I really acknowledge you for the courage that you model in all of this. I acknowledge the courage um, in you forging a path that really resonates with your heart and your spirit rather than the one that you could do. I mean, and like you don't have to do any of this. You know, you're a pilot, you're an ex-attorney, you've got a family business. Like there's so many reasons you don't have to pursue this. And yet, because of the
mhm.
integrity and the courage that you are, because of the tremendous heart that you are, and how much you feel things, you're willing to answer the call of the soul. And that's remarkable. And finally, I really want to acknowledge you. I guess it's for two things. Like one, the heart again, but also like the playfulness that you bring into the space along with it. And like there's almost like a it's like a reserved delight, which I imagine will not stay reserved for too long as you keep in this work, but like a reserved delight as you catch yourself in these moments or as you notice these sort of little things. And it's sort of like I'm almost imagining like the Queen of England finding something funny, but like I'm not gonna laugh too. We're gonna enjoy this just a little bit. And so I
It's
love the
funny.
delight. I love the bombasticness that I can feel under the surface. And I love that there's like a degree of refinement as well that you bring to the table.
Thanks.
Ah,
Thanks.
ah. So
Funny.
let's do a little bit of a debrief and then we'll wind down. So
Okay.
anything you want to share just about your experience, how that was, where we went, what you thought we would do, anything.
Um, I uh I don't know. I guess my experience is like I'm proud that I just like I'm proud that I kept my request that I wanted and didn't bail out on myself and do something easier.
Yes.
Um, and so I'm proud of myself for that. What I noticed was my ability to not cry on camera. That was nice. Um, and my cough, my pesky cough,
Uh-huh.
and just the fun. This was fun. This actually
Uh-huh.
was really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I found that too. Um, I one of the things I was talking to my friend Michelle about this, who you also know.
Hmm.
We were reflecting how sometimes in coaching, what happens is we get in this conversation with someone, and it's like any number of things. Sometimes it's murky and confusing. Sometimes it's like fast paced and hard to keep track of. Sometimes we're constantly getting lost. And we were distinguishing how often in a coaching conversation, what's happening is we're getting into the client's experience of
Hmm.
themselves in their life. And it takes a moment to sort of realize, oh, that's what's happening. Because at first we're like, fuck, where are we going? I'm doing this wrong. Oh my God, what it meant to happen? Ah, there's people, all of that sort of stuff. And then the deeper we get into this work, the sooner we're able to be like, oh no, hold on, this is perfect. This is the experience. And there was that kind of moment where we were talking and distinguishing how there was sort of like you got clear a little bit on what you'd want and then you get derailed by like the
Hmm.
details of it. And then we would sort of like get into the details. And so it's quite beautiful because the thing you were describing out there was also happening in here.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
Uh-huh. Do you ever find that happens with your clients?
yeah, it does. And kind of shining a light on it is a skill that I feel like I'm still developing. So where I
Same.
can articulate it.
Yeah. Well, it's tough
Yeah,
to pull ourselves up out of it, because it's I have all these weird metaphors, but it's like being in whitewater rapids. You get into it and you're like, I just have to make sure I don't drown. And then that becomes
right.
everything you're doing. And it takes sort of some real energetic work to sort of like, whoop, I'm seeing what's happening. So
Yeah.
cool.
Well, or like if you're kind of falling into the dynamic that they have with everybody else and distinguishing like what that dynamic actually is in order to bring it to the surface. And then
Yeah.
the fear that I have of like, well, because I can't put my thumb on what this is called, then I shouldn't bring this to the table yet. And so
This is you as coach. That fear?
this is me as coach. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally. And it's especially challenging when their relational dynamic is getting angry at the person in
Yeah.
front of them, and then you're like, oh my God, what have I done wrong? I need to and we do need to visit, like, am I being responsible? Am I doing my work? Have I actually dropped the ball? Should I take
Yeah.
responsibility for that? The answer to all those questions is probably yes. You probably have dropped the ball somehow, probably should be responsible. I probably should be. But then once we've done that, then we kind of come to the other side of like, okay, great, this is how it goes for them in every relationship they're in. Then we can really do some amazing work. So I love that about
Right.
coaching. Uh-huh. Was there
Yeah.
something you're going to add?
Nope.
No,
Nope.
cool. Okay, so Rebekah, you wear 6 million hats, one of which is coaching. Like, what's your deal? Who do you work with? Tell us a little bit about your what you're doing now.
Yeah, I work with like so I call them trailblazers. They're typically the business owners or the executives that are like taking the unlit path.
Mm,
Often sometimes a lot like me where they had a career and they exited and they did something different and they had a career and they exited and they feel a bit lost. And so I help them, you know, be with complex change and really liberate like pleasure and joy in life
mm,
and kind of get out of the drudgery. So that's I like helping people enjoy their life that are of the business owner kind of the occupation or executive occupation. So
uh-huh. Nice.
Yeah.
So even in what you were describing, I imagine a lot of courage and integrity in your people. Would that be
Yeah.
accurate?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you said sort
Exactly.
of like lost. What are some other obviously like enjoying life, courage, that sort of stuff's
Yeah.
cool, but what are some other experiences that they might um kind of be in the experience of prior to like seeking out a coach? Like what would their experience of life be?
Mm, their experience of life would be they want they want something different. They don't know
Mm.
exactly what that might be,
Uh-huh.
and they want clarity as to what that is and then actually how to do it because they feel exhausted and tired often because they're just kind of
Uh-huh.
on this hamster wheel. And they also wear 1,000 hats and they want to stop doing other people's jobs and really focus on what's important to them. I would say that would be the
Uh-huh.
experience that they have in life.
Uh-huh. And do they that clarity piece really rang true for me. Like, does that become the sort of like how we were talking about like what's the conversation to have, but you were trying to figure out clarity for like how do I have it or the bits and pieces of
Yeah,
it? Is that kind of
yeah,
like the sort of mythical holy grail they're constantly chasing after? Like if I just get clarity.
yeah, it is. And then also the sensation of like they're climbing a ladder and they're like, oh, this next rung is supposed to bring fulfillment, and then they do the next rung and they're like, shit, I'm not fulfilled. And
Mm,
so it's kind of liberating fulfillment, really focusing on well-being, what it is that they want. um I would say
so
that's,
probably super accomplished then, I imagine.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Good at climbing ladders. Sweet. My people take the
Yes,
elevator.
so
We're lazy. A lot of
yeah.
effort. Cool. Where do they find out about you? Like, where do people follow your work? Where do people engage with you? What's the deals?
They can follow my work at on Instagram and Facebook. I'm not really on LinkedIn. Um, just not driving with that. It just, I don't know, feels hard, I guess.
Yeah, and
So
boring.
Instagram and yeah, very, very like stoic almost. Like I have to be that in
Yes.
there. But anyways, so Instagram and Facebook, Trailblazers Growth Coach would be the business name.
Is that your website
And
too?
yes, Trailblazers Growth is the .com, www.trailblazersgrowth.com.
Cool. I think I put that in there. Yeah.
And and I have a podcast which I haven't been very active on recently, but that is Trailblazing Growth is the podcast. So
Aha.
that is how
Tell us
they
about the
can find my
podcast.
work. The podcast is about I don't know, it seems like it typically is centered around leadership, centered
Uh-huh.
around relationship, centered around like being with people and the nuances of being with people,
Mhm.
which is
Well
interesting
said.
because that's what we navigated here in this
Always the way,
coaching
right?
request, right? Like, oh yeah, I'm talking about this thing, but I myself don't know how to do this with my own brothers.
Uh-huh.
Yes,
That's
yes,
how, for everyone listening, I want to highlight that. That's how Rebekah's a coach in her work. Is
yeah,
because that's always the way it is. We're always supporting people. We're always like half a step ahead of people. And she works, I know you work with your own coach and you're very committed to your development. You're in the forge. Like, so this is how we know that a coach is in their work is that they're distinguishing this stuff and that they're working with it rather than like, oh yeah, I used to feel that way, but now I never do. You're
yeah,
not in your work.
yes. Well
Yeah.
said. Yeah.
Cool.
So I would say
Cool.
it's a lot about being with people and like also like kind of letting go of expectations, and moving through fear,
Yes.
and just like I guess motivation to stop climbing the ladder if you want to stop climbing the ladder. So
Yeah. It's so funny because it's all of this stuff is what we crave, but our fear gets a payoff out of climbing the ladder. Or for me, it was like grinding, sweating,
yeah,
and like we want nothing more than to be able to let go of it. But then we have to face our fear because our fear no longer is getting its itch scratched. And so it takes,
yeah,
again, like tremendous courage. It sounds so silly in the moment. We're like, no, 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 I happily let go of the ladder. Ah, ah, ah. But then we do it
right.
and we're like, fuck, but like, am I a greedy bitch or am I,
Hmm.
spoiled brat or, whatever the stuff happens to be that our fear throws at
Right.
us. Very compelling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like, do I need to go get this other degree or certificate in order to feel like I'm enough in my own business or whatever it might
Yeah.
be for them. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, let's wind down there. So
Okay.
everyone, thank you for tuning in. Your husband tuned in. He just said, great conversation. Thanks for sharing. So now we'll
Thanks,
see if
Tony.
he'll leverage it. Thanks, Drew, for being here. Thank you, Seth. Thank you, everyone else that was tuning in. For everyone listening on the podcast after the fact, if you ever have like particular questions about any of this stuff, please, please, please send me a message. Let me know, because then we can address it. We can bring it forward. I can speak to it and also model some of it in the coaching that we do. So thank you everyone so much for being here. Thank you, Rebekah, for everything that you brought today. And everyone, I hope you have an amazing weekend and good Christmas holidays. Peace.
Thank you.
Now you get to watch me
See ya.
awkwardly end this live stream while Rebekah just stands and watches.